I'm here with Dave Wiskowski, and we briefly met at Health Fest in Marshall, Texas, a couple months ago. Actually, on a run, he was a bit ahead of me, and caught up with him for a few minutes and got a chance to meet and hear a little bit about his story. And first off, thanks, Dave, for spending the time, for taking a break out of your crazy schedule this week. And maybe you can just start out with where you're from and a little bit about yourself.
Sure thing. Well, thanks so much for having me on. It was cool to meet you in Marshall, Texas, even though it was pitch black and I couldn't really see your face. It's cool. We met throughout the weekend a bunch of times, so it is much better that way. And then I'm really happy to be here talking to you now. So I live in suburban Chicago. I'm now like a plant-based runner. I've gone plant-based. I think that's what a lot of these stories are about. I'm a guy that I used to weigh 230 pounds, probably down to 150, 160 right now. So a total lifestyle change took place probably 4.5 years ago for me. So this has been just kind of like a totally new life that I've been living for the last few years. And then I get to meet really awesome people like you, uh, really awesome people like Josh, other people that you've had on that you've talked to, just kind of meeting these cool people, getting inspired, helping inspire other people. I'm a photographer in the Chicago area. Um, we're actually, my wife and I are relocating to Southern California, so I'm currently in Southern California, sitting outside in the nice weather. Just spent the weekend in Northern California, running all around some mountains. So lots of cool, exciting stuff going on.
Fantastic. So to go back quite a ways, what was kind of your expectation of food growing up, or maybe you could talk. I don't know kind of where that number 230 comes in, but can you talk a little bit about the things that led to you eventually being there 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think growing up, I didn't have the healthiest eating habits. I was never really overweight. I always considered myself just a little bit chubby, I would say, but I was always an athlete. I was always playing sports, but I never focused on anything I was eating. And I probably was drawn more to, junk foods, drank lots of soda all throughout my life. After college, becoming an adult and feeding yourself, it was just a lot of like fast food, a lot of takeout, a lot of pizza, a lot of frozen food. And then, there's the sedentary lifestyle along with that. So it just seemed like it was very easy to gain weight at that point. So, yeah, definitely in the early 20s through 30s, I was putting on weight pretty regularly, not taking any of it off. That leads to just a very kind of depressed state to be in. It's just kind of this cycle that you get trapped in. And, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to it. I'm sure a lot of people have been there. And that's kind of how it went for me. It was just one year after another getting kind of worse and worse until I decided to make a change one day.
Awesome. I know you mentioned in an email that at the age of 34, you find yourself stuck in the routine of work, home, couch, TV, food, more drinks, more TV, all in an endless cycle trying to find comfort slash happiness and success, only heading into discomfort and depression. And you said the discomfort and depression had always been there, but more of the above items provided enough to numb those thoughts. Um, any idea why or how you kind of ended up on that almost hamster wheel, that cycle of just continual, one thing feeding the other, no pun intended, and eventually getting to the place to kind of where you were?
It's hard to say. There's got to be so many factors. I mean, there's a definite kind of depression that was always been present. But when you're younger and more active in life, it doesn't seem to kind of take over. Just at the stage I was in at life then, what you described, that cycle, that's all there really was to life. And none of those things were all that satisfying. And, it really just does feed itself. And, you have a bad day at work, stressful day, you just want to come home and numb. And you numb with food, you numb with alcohol, you numb with TV, you numb with these things which you think help you in that moment, but they don't. And you're always chasing something that you can never quite catch. And yet you keep chasing it. And the amazing thing that I came to realize is years would go by in the blink of an eye like that. Um, and I would only find myself deeper and deeper in a hole that I didn't want to be in. And I didn't realize that every choice that I was making was digging that hole even deeper. But that was the cycle that I lived in for many years. Yeah, from early 20s to mid 30s.
And I think you said that you had previously made attempts to try and eat healthier and exercise. What did those look like previous to kind of that point that you mentioned where you decided to really make a change?
I had tried some things on my own, like just restricting portion sizes, which is not something I'm good at. That just does not work for me. Being hungry just makes me kind of like a maniac in a in a terrible way. I tried some more structured plans. I tried the Body for Life plan. I think Bill Phillips probably. I had moderate success, but again, you're really controlling portion sizes, and there's a lot of working out that would go along with that. But these things I would fight for months and months to lose 15 pounds or so. And then the second I would stop, like it's all back in the blink of an eye. So I never really had any kind of success other than maybe very short periods of having lost 20 pounds through kind of extreme effort and suffering, basically. Like it wasn't a pleasant experience. It just makes you kind of feel like a failure. It makes you feel like you can't ever do this. And then year after year, there's another 10 pounds on top of, the 40 or 50 or 60 that you wanted to lose. And it's like, you're just fighting a battle that you're never going to win.
Yeah, and so this time, was there kind of a specific point in which you decided to make a change? Was there a rock bottom moment, a complete 180, or was it more of a gradual thing?
This one was kind of funny. It's probably not a specific rock bottom moment, but it does approach more of a bottom than anything. I was heavier than I had ever been, like 230 pounds or so. I don't really know. I wasn't quite weighing myself. I'm like 5'8", so 230, that was way too much. Like 200 was too much, but 230 is like, it's just never going to stop. And I know that I was going to blink and I was going to be 250 and it was just going to keep going. I was drinking a lot at that time after work. It's just, total numbing with alcohol and food. And it was just really affecting me in a very, very negative way. And then just one weekend, my wife and I were watching TV because that's really all we did, sit on the couch and watch TV, browsing Netflix, and it just came upon a documentary called Forks Over Knives. Never heard of it. I didn't know anything about it. I had no intention of watching a documentary about food or about any kind of dietary change. There was no knowledge of what it was or no intention. It just happened to be something that we watched. I'm sure with a big plate of like fried foods and, some giant feast of awful stuff. But we went ahead and watched it anyway. And man, that just like it clicked when I watched it. There was a spark. There was something that I've never felt before that just hit me like deep inside. And I was like, holy crap, I think I need to try this.
Yeah, I think that movie has done a lot for a lot of people in terms of in that same situation where, for me, it was a very similar thing. I hadn't heard of it, didn't know anything about it. Now it's almost hard to avoid hearing something about it or hearing it mentioned. But a couple of years ago, like it was just kind of one of those things you stumble upon and then kind of get blindsided by.
Yeah, exactly. I had never heard of it. I was totally blindsided by it. Nobody told me about it. This was 4.5 years ago. So, I don't remember exactly what year it came out, but it hadn't been out for too long. People hear of it now because I literally tell every single person I meet about it and give out copies and, everything else. But I'm sure you do too, and a lot of people. But I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, and I know you said that you gave yourself like a 1-year trial period as an assessment for the new lifestyle. Why did you decide to commit to a year of as you said, trial, just to kind of, give yourself some constraints?
Yeah, so I had realized that a lot of the struggles I had, even though I didn't feel like they were my fault, I felt like I'm probably getting in the way in some small part, maybe a big part. So I thought, let's not do some BS thing like a week. You can't figure out anything in a week. Even a month is too short. I said, let's go with something big where I will know. A year will tell me, does this work or not? What is this going to do to me? And a year is a real commitment. It means I might stumble a bit at the beginning, but I'll get back up and I'll keep going. You can kind of stumble and BS your way through a month of something, and you're not going to learn what happened. So I thought, let me take it seriously. Let me commit. Let me not listen to me. What I had done right after I watched Forks Over Knives, I bought Dr. Esselstyn's book. I just bought it on Kindle, downloaded it instantly, and skimmed through it because I was fired up. I was like, I'm doing this tomorrow. So, I mean, literally the next day we cleared out all of the food from our house, gave it away, went out and bought new food, just like bags of brown rice and beans and frozen vegetables, like really simple stuff. And I just skimmed Dr. Esselstyn's book, and I was like, I can do this. He has 13 rules. I was like, that's basically the only page I read. I mean, I did actually read his book, but to get started, I was like, I'm so fired up. I'm doing this now. I'm not going to wait a week to read the book. And so, yeah, I mean, we just kind of jumped right in, and that 1 year trial, it felt like a serious enough commitment. It felt like, I will know, at the end of this. And I thought, I can't hurt myself. The worst thing that'll happen is for a year, I'll feel hungry and I'll feel like the food sucks. But I can't hurt myself with eating vegetables, like fruit and vegetables, for a year. Like, with my lack of nutritional knowledge, I knew that I would still be okay. Like, I knew that I could go a year without chicken nuggets and, frozen pizzas and all that.
Yeah,
So
somehow
it was
or another,
okay.
the beans and the kale would be just as nutritious as the chicken nuggets, right?
I didn't think I would be happy. I mean, I'll be honest. I thought there's a chance I might be miserable for a year, but then I also thought maybe I just kind of need to be miserable for a year.
Yeah. And so what was that like? I know you said you and your wife watched together. Was she just as on board, just as 100% with everything as you? Or was there any kind of, like, whenever you said, okay, I'm throwing out all the food, was that a decision that y'all made together?
Yeah, thankfully we did make the decisions together. So I think she was on board. I don't think it clicked in the same way. I'm more of an extreme kind of person, a more extreme personality. She has a more moderate type of personality. So, I was probably eating 10 pounds of, disgusting fried food and drinking 10 beers at that moment, in that extreme state. And then something clicked and said, throw it all away, buy all new stuff, and we're changing everything for 1 year. So mine is very extreme. She was on board, but it probably wasn't, that same kind of fire that I had inside. But yeah, thankfully we did it together, and she was very supportive and committed to it. And she enjoyed it, as much as I did.
I love the sight of you 10 beers in telling your wife that we're throwing away all of our fried food and we're getting vegetables. I know you said that you went out shopping for vegetables, grains, fruits, and somehow or another we would have to turn these into food, is what you said. Did you guys have much experience cooking before, or was this kind of another new part of the process for y'all?
Yeah, this was definitely a new part of the process. I'm not a good cook. I don't like putting in the effort for cooking and preparing food. So I was all about frozen foods before, just, frozen meals kind of ready to go. Frozen pizzas. It was embarrassing how many times I would find myself late at night at the supermarket buying frozen pizza and beer. Like, I was just really embarrassed to be putting that on the, at the register so many times. Like, oh my God, seriously? My wife is a better cook, but still she didn't cook a lot. So that was a new thing for us to have to invest all of that time and effort into cooking. But because somehow we made the commitment, like, it didn't matter if the food was good. It didn't matter if we turned it into something that tasted good. And there were days that I ate stuff that it really had no flavor, and it looked like a mess. And I would send pictures, like, to my sister, and she would say, my sister is a very good cook, and my sister would say, like, that looks awful. Why are you eating that? And I'd be like, well, that's all I made today. That's all I've got. And I'm starving. So I need to put this brown rice and pile of mush, into me. So I'm not hungry, which is really something interesting that I learned, that even when you're starving and you're eating something that doesn't taste that good, once you eat it, you're fine. All those cravings go away. All those issues with I need something delicious go away because you're full, you're satisfied. And I was definitely eating very nutritionally packed foods, really healthy whole grains and lots of vegetables, and just I wasn't necessarily combining things in great ways, but that didn't take long. It took like a month to figure that out.
Yeah, I personally didn't have any interest in cooking at all. and I would usually just sit on the couch because my wife didn't want me in the kitchen. And my only skills were making beige things, which were like, French fries, Totino's, pizza, and mac and cheese. Uh, so I know that you said you were feeling good, and you decided you were going to go downstairs and try and run on the treadmill. You ran 3 miles, which at the time was nearly a world record for you. Um, what kind of what brought you on to do that? Had you previously been? I think you said you were an athlete earlier in life, but it also sounds like you had a treadmill in the basement. So, what kind of made you decide to do that, and why did you just happen to have a treadmill in the basement?
I was an athlete in high school and a little bit in college. I always hated running, though. And so I played soccer, I played baseball, and I was pretty good. I remember in high school for soccer, varsity soccer, we had to run a 2 mile timed run. And I got a DNF. And a DNF, for those in the running world, is did not finish. So I did not finish. So not only did I not hit the time that I needed in order to make the varsity team, which I made anyway, I didn't finish the run. So anyway, that's my running background. I just do not like running, which is ironic if anybody knows anything about me now, because I don't ever stop running. But yeah, so that day I'd probably lost, maybe 20-ish pounds, 20 to 30 pounds, so pretty quickly in like a month and a half or so. I was not exercising, but I was a month and a half into this plant-based diet, and losing weight and feeling good with energy. I was still drinking alcohol, so there was still comforting going on, numbing going on. And this was a day that honestly, like, I just felt crappy, probably from drinking more than anything. And I was like, I just need to and I was sitting in the basement. I had my computer set up in the basement. And there's a treadmill. We bought a treadmill a few years earlier, because everybody buys exercise equipment to lose weight. But it just sat there, it had like almost no miles on it, this beautiful, expensive treadmill. And so I just went over to it and I got on it. I just started running, really slow, a really slow pace, but I still ran, and I ran for like 3 miles, and, that probably took me 45 minutes, but I was able to do it. And that shocked me that I was able to do it, because just mentally I never liked running, and physically I didn't think I would be able to run more than a mile or two. And I thought it would just be very physically difficult. And it kind of wasn't. It kind of felt okay.
And I know that you went from basically stepping on the treadmill for the first time to 3 months later running your first race, and then within the next 3 months running 11 races. So what do you think made you fall in love with running this time, or what was different?
This goes back. I didn't fully answer a previous question. I had no intention of changing my diet. As you said, when I watched Forks Over Knives, I had no intention of making a dietary change. And I made the biggest dietary change something that I wouldn't have ever considered, I made. Same thing with running. I had no intention of running. And yet I just tried it out and it went well. And I ran 5 miles the next day and 5 miles the day after that. And I genuinely thought I was running more than hardcore runners until I looked up that at the end of that week, I think I ran 25 miles, which was a lot because I had not run 25 miles in a year, or probably in 10 years. I looked up what they run, and they run, 120, 150 miles. So I was a little disappointed at that point because I genuinely thought, like, this is hardcore stuff. It just clicked. It clicked like the dietary change, and it felt good. Just like putting the healthy food in your body feels good. The movement, the exercise feels good. Where people go wrong is it doesn't feel good right away. The first time it doesn't feel good. When you put down the pizza and you eat the brown rice and the broccoli, it doesn't give you that same experience. When you're watching a movie on the couch or going on the treadmill and running a hard couple miles, it doesn't feel the same. You have to do it for a couple weeks, and then things change, and then your body adapts, your mind adapts, and then it just becomes the greatest thing ever. That brown rice that I always hated turns into this delicious food. The running that I always hated, I run all the time now. I run 100 miles a week. I run in races any chance I get. I travel all over the country running races. It fills me with life, and I can't imagine not doing it. I didn't choose it. I was just open to the experience that came my way, and that was probably the difference, that I was just open to it, and I'm grateful for that, because I don't know what I'd be doing without these things in my life now.
And you talked a little bit about, the numbing, the depression, all that kind of stuff before. Do you find that the running has kind of helped to combat that and helped to kind of provide, whether it's therapy or just a space um, to prevent that now, or the other parts of your life, kind of taking care of that, and this is just icing on the cake?
Running was the definite therapy. There's no doubt. And I learned that pretty quickly. So I got pretty good at running pretty fast. I was able to start to run 5 to 7 miles comfortably within a couple months. And so, maybe that was an hour long run. So when I would have a stressful day at work, sometimes I would choose not to drink beer, and I would choose to go for a 7 mile run. And I realized that it changed the way my mind felt. It changed my brain. It 2 miles in, 3 miles in, whatever negative thoughts I was having, whatever stress or frustration or anger, were magically gone. And then the next few miles would just be kind of joy. And I would finish a run feeling joyful. High is kind of the wrong word, but really just like alive, happy, free of stress or anything. And it was amazing to me. Like, I didn't believe it, so I kept doing it, and it kept happening, even though I kept not believing it. And then eventually I was like, okay, I just have to accept that this is happening. So then I really did start to kind of intentionally use it as therapy, and sort of unintentionally, in the big picture, use it as therapy. And this is coming from somebody who has spent years going to therapy, to psychologists, psychiatrists, being medicated for depression, trying all sorts of things. So I had a base to compare it to. And, the things I felt in one run far exceeded, 5 years of therapy and more conventional treatments. So that helped fuel kind of this running in my life. And I'm not the only one. Then I started to read other stories about other people finding themselves through running, finding their way out of depression, addiction. And I was kind of amazed by that, but I understood it.
Yeah, it's been kind of amazing to talk to a bunch of different people who have said, they were maybe heavy physically, but also that heavy physicality also brings in a heavy emotion that kind of feeds in. And that as you begin to lose weight, as you begin to, seek different forms of exercise and things like that, you become aware of it, and you're actually able to work on it in a way that previously you just weren't able to work on. So what does running look like? I know you said you travel around now a bit. What does running look like to you now? Like, what are some of the? I know you said you just went and paced a stranger for 12 hours through the night at the Western States. What do you look forward to doing these days?
My running, I got into races. I started running short local races for a year. Then I started running marathons and got really into that. And marathons are very difficult, obviously. And then a friend introduced me to ultra marathons. So that's just something longer than marathons. Typically 50K, 50 miles, 100 miles. And those are usually in mountains, in woods, on trails. So it's not your typical road race. So I've just fallen in love with ultra running, ultra marathons. I've run a fair amount of them over the last 2 years. I've really cut back on my road running. And in ultra marathons, you kind of need a crew, you need support, you need pacers, especially in the 100-mile distance. And so, this past weekend, I went to the Western States 100. It's the most historic, most famous of the ultra marathons. It's like the Boston Marathon of the ultra running world. And I was there with a runner from the Chicago area. He unfortunately didn't make it in the race. He got cut early. But I was there to run. I was there to help somebody. And so just friends of friends connected me with somebody who needed a runner. I met this girl at, I was looking at my data today. I met her at 11:06 at night and ran with her until I think 10:43 the next morning, through mountains, through rivers, just all kinds of things. And it's an amazing experience. I've been pacing a lot of people this year in 100-mile, 150-mile races. It's exhausting. It's very difficult. It takes a lot out of you, but it gives them so much. When they achieve these amazing things, it feels really good to help somebody get there. And that's kind of been a transition in my running. My running was probably more egocentric earlier on, that look at me, look at how good I'm becoming. Even though once I met a real running group, I realized I wasn't that good. But helping other people, it's just like, this is a really fun way to run, and a really fun way to use my ability to run, to help somebody else accomplish a really big dream. I mean, crossing the finish line at the Western States 100, if you talk to ultra runners, like that right there is like a lifelong dream for people. So it's amazing. It's just a fun way to spend time, meet people, travel around, and see new places. It's just, it's phenomenal.
That's awesome. So can you talk a little bit about the journey that you are embarking on later this week?
Yeah. So with all of this running and ultra running, a friend of a friend connected me with his friend, who is a great ultra runner. Her name is Kayla Marino. I ran with her last year in Colorado on some training runs through the mountains. Although you've seen the mountains there, I wasn't doing a whole lot of running. It was more hiking, but I'll call it running. So Kayla is running across the country. She's running from Los Angeles to New York City, and that starts July 1st. And so that's in just a few days from right now. So I will be helping her. I'll be part of her crew, taking care of her, pacing her. So I'll be running some of the miles with her, maybe up to half of the miles. So she's probably going to run around 50 miles a day for about 2 months. And I'm hoping to run about half the miles with her. But the bottom line is, my job and the job of the crew is to just get her through it every day, to keep it going, whatever she needs, whatever it takes. And so she's raising money for the New York Roadrunners Mighty Milers. It's a children's charity to get children involved in exercise and in movement, in running. She's a school teacher. Running gave her all kinds of confidence in life. She's sharing that passion with others, and that's kind of her mission. She would also like to kind of break the women's record for running across the country, which is, I'm probably going to give wrong information. It's something like 67 or 69 days. So that's about what we're going for. And because she's a teacher, this is her summer break, so we can't spend 8 months out there going across the country. We have to get it done in those 60-something days or less. So that's the new adventure that I'm embarking on. I don't have too many other details to give out right now. There's a Facebook page. Kayla runs the USA. My Facebook page will link to various things. New York Roadrunners just put out a press release about her trip and her fundraising efforts. So, yeah, it's basically just going to be an enormous adventure. I don't know what it's going to entail. Lots of things are going to go wrong. Lots of things are going to go right. But, you just keep going. It's a big country, so we have a lot of time to figure it out along the way, and it'll be a fun experience.
Awesome. I can't wait to follow along. For you personally, looking down the road, are there any kind of goals or things that you kind of have set that for yourself personally that you're, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are you hoping to accomplish, or some of the things that you're looking forward to?
I would say before I was just kind of happy to have my own personal results. So my own personal weight loss, my own personal story of kind of changing my life, turning it around, my own personal accomplishments in running. But the last few years, I've just been sharing as much as I can with other people, helping people find a path to get out of, that cycle that we talked about earlier that people get stuck in. So people like you are inspiring me to share these messages. People like Josh Lajani, man, does that guy inspire you to get out there? I thought I was excited and energetic until I spent some time with Josh, and I was like, man, there's another level of this excitement out there that I hadn't seen before. Just to create a space to share these things with people. So I've gotten certifications in plant-based nutrition, personal training, run coaching. I'll be putting all of these things together in terms of like a wellness coaching type thing. But really, just whatever I'm doing, I would like to help people find their way out of wherever they are in whatever way that means. And it doesn't just mean being overweight. It doesn't just mean food issues. There are other addiction issues. There are other psychological factors, depression, all sorts of things. But I think we don't ever feel empowered. We don't realize that we can do these things. We don't realize that we can get ourselves out of where we are. We just typically need some guidance from somebody. We need to follow a path. So while I didn't really follow a lot of structured programs, I most definitely had a path, and I had people guiding me. I had Dr. Esselstyn from his book. I had Dr. Campbell. I had Rich Roll when I read his book, and he provided tons of guidance. The guides are out there, and I just want to be kind of one of the more accessible ones, to help people find their way.
And what would you maybe say to someone who's at the beginning of this journey, who's looking to make a change, who's looking to get started? Maybe even it could pertain to running, or to getting off the couch, laying off the frozen pizza and 10 beers. What would you give to that person as some motivation?
I definitely read this in Rich Roll's book, Finding Ultra, and it really stuck with me. When he found himself in rehab, he had serious substance abuse problems, and found himself in rehab. And I think a doctor there in his rehab said, "Look, your best efforts landed you here," and that really stuck with me. When we are way off of our path, when we are suffering badly, we didn't intend to get there. We intended to do good things. We're trying to make things work. So it really helps to just seek a guide, seek somebody who knows a way out. And it doesn't have to be the right answer, but it has to be somebody who does have an answer, where you're not just listening to yourself. So in my case, I read Dr. Esselstyn's book and I followed his plan. I would just strongly suggest to people, follow a plan. There are amazing resources out there. There's Dr. Esselstyn, there's Dr. Campbell, Dr. Furman. I've read his books, Dr. Bernard. The list goes on, and I'm not thinking of all of them right now, but I've read all of their books, and they all have tremendous answers and tremendous plans. And just commit, pick a plan, commit to it the best you can, and give yourself some time, and give yourself some patience and some kindness. Don't expect immediate results. Don't worry about it. Just commit to it and stick with it the best you can, and see how it goes. I started to then find other people on this same path. I started seeing things all over Facebook. I started following Rip Esselstyn's Engine 2 on Facebook, and seeing great recipes, and reading his book and watching their videos. There's so much information out there, but you have to get into it. You have to get out of where you are and get into something else. So yeah, the advice that I typically give to people, and I don't like to give advice unless people are asking me, but it's really just don't listen to yourself. Listen to somebody else for a little bit. Help step outside of that cycle that you're caught in, and just give it a try. Be patient. Definitely be kind to yourself. That one took me a while. Beating yourself up, I'm sorry, it's not going to help. Nothing is going to get better. You can't do that and expect things to get better. Even when things feel like they're not going well, be kind to yourself. You are trying your best. Even when you're in your depths of misery, you're trying your best. You just might not have the right message. And another message which stuck with me that I heard very recently from David Clark, and David Clark has been on his own tremendous weight loss journey and substance abuse recovery, and he has a book that's called Out There, which I haven't quite read, but I have met him and I follow him closely on Facebook. He said, we just have to get it right once. Just have to get it right once, which means try a bunch of stuff, try it out, keep trying different things. It's okay if it doesn't work, because when you get it right that one time, it'll click and it'll work. I tried a bunch of things. I tried different diets. I tried different strategies. In hindsight, those didn't work, but I kept trying, and one day found something which did work. So, that kind of takes the pressure off yourself. Just try it, see how it goes.
Yeah, and I don't know if the advice would be any different, but if you could go back and give that person on the couch some advice before you saw the movie, would it be any different? Something in terms of that you would be able to tell yourself that maybe you think you would have listened to or resonated with yourself?
I mean, I think I am speaking to myself a lot. I think I'm speaking to that person a lot, but I remember him, and I don't think he would have believed me. I think he would have been upset. That guy thought there was just one answer, and he hadn't yet found that one answer, but he was sitting on the couch, eating frozen pizza, drinking beer, waiting until that one answer presented itself. And that's really not the way it works. And you have to go out there and find it. And you can only find it by doing. You can't really find it by reading or really find it by watching documentaries. These things are inspiring, but they don't do it unless you get up and do it. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to join a gym, get a trainer, throw away all your food, but you have to do something different than what you're currently doing. The more you do differently, the more likely things are to change. If you make one small change, you'll probably start to get some benefits. If you make some really big changes, you might get big benefits. But that depends on the personality. I have an extreme type of personality, so that fit with me to make that extreme overnight change. That doesn't work for everybody, so I wouldn't suggest that for everyone. But yeah, just make some change. Try something different from someone else outside of yourself. And I think the message that I would really have given to me 5 years ago would be just, dude, calm down. It's okay. Take some of that pressure off. Don't try to change this. Don't try to drop 50 pounds in one shot. Just let's make some positive changes and take some positive steps.
That's all awesome advice. And lastly, where can people find out more about you, what you're doing, follow the journey that you're currently on, and connect with you?
Good question. I did just recently start a Facebook page to kind of publicly share all these things. I think it's Dave Wiskowski, plant-based ultra runner. I'll share info with you, and you can share it. That would be the best place to go right now until I start putting out some more content. I have lots of things that I would love to put out. I'm just kind of busy running through mountains and woods in all of my free time, and so that doesn't happen. But go there, or just go to the mountains woods and run into me. Go to an ultra marathon and run with me for 12 hours and get like a one-on-one session if you'd like.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'll take you up on that one sometime.
Definitely.
Well, Dave, thanks so much for the time. Thanks for the inspiration. Thanks for sharing your story and being open and honest. And wish you nothing but the best of luck in the months to come. And we'll look forward to chatting with you soon.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. And thank you for doing, your big project. This is phenomenal. I think we need more of this content out there. People like me are not putting out the content at all. So I'm so glad we have people like you. You have amazing people on your podcast, part of your movie project. So, I mean, I'm really honored to be part of this. I don't think I'm quite at the level of those guys. They've made tremendous life changes. I can't wait to see, your documentary that you put out. So, yeah, thank you for doing that. I mean, that's really going to inspire a lot of people.
Awesome. Well, hopefully it's a team effort. So hopefully we'll be doing it together.
I'm on your team, man. Whatever you need, I'm on your team. Count me in.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks.